So I am going to rate this movie. I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 whale alien noises.
All right. And you went third, so that was the last rating we had to give. So thanks for being on the podcast. It was Ray and Greg were here today.
Mm-hmm.
And this was fun. It feels like we got through it pretty quick, but, it's a good movie.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it feels quick. I guess that depends if you, still do, linear time stuff or not.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm Amy Adams having a flashback. That was a good bit. Congratulations.
Yeah. Shout out to those non-linear time people that we have listening to the podcast.
They're gonna love this one.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one for them.
They're gonna be, burning down the roof with that shit. Is that a phrase? I don't know. In the future, it will be. In 3,000 years, when I need your help to get that joke. As you guys know, I don't know how to start the podcast yet, so it'll either be the ending of the podcast or something along the lines of "Welcome late to the movies." My name is Ben Holden. This is a podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. What do I usually say after that? Well, every week we'll pick a movie that either I or a guest hadn't seen before and really should have by now. This week we're kicking off a brand new month of hopefully normal length episodes. Sorry for the last 4 episodes that came out in about 10 days and were a cumulative 12 hours or something like that. Instead of Oscars this month, we're going to be focusing on, I haven't decided on a name yet, you guys can help me, but alien invasions, incursions, visitations. I was thinking Watch the Skies month, if they're, something like that. Or just, alien invasions. This was, if you remember, it's not as timely now, about a month and a half ago where we were shooting UFOs out of the sky every couple days. That's what inspired this month.
Oh, I didn't realize there was no name for it yet.
Yeah, I wish I had known this earlier.
Yeah.
This is the first episode of the month. I like to workshop it a little bit.
Ooh.
All I can think of right now is unidentified flying podcasts. Not quite there, but we're getting there.
Okay, well, think about it throughout.
UFP month, yeah.
Think about it throughout. I need a name by tomorrow so I can put the name in the description. My guest this week, you've already heard him talk. You've already heard Greg give his rating, but we got Ray.
Hi.
And Greg.
Hey.
And I didn't do this first, but it's okay because we're non-linear now. And left to right across your podcast style, those were the guests. Before we get into Arrival, which is, I don't know if I've said is the movie this week yet.
You said it, but in the future.
Yeah, probably. Have you guys watched anything good recently?
Yes, actually. Nope. It came on to Amazon Prime, so we watched that in the future, but not yet.
Oh.
But we can probably talk about it anyway. I think I know what happens now.
Yeah, you can see yourself giving a lecture on it.
Yes.
And
So,
you're reading the book that you
good.
write about it in a few years.
Yes, it was good.
It's so good.
Oh, and we also I saw the Dungeons and Dragons movie tomorrow.
Yeah, I was looking forward to that.
Yeah, it was good.
But now that we're thinking in the future, I knew it was good too. I watched John Wick 4.
Oh, yeah.
It was, it's, the best big budget action movie that I've seen in theaters since Mad Max Fury Road.
I've heard a lot of people raving about John Wick 4.
Yeah, it's practical effects, man, and stuntmen actually falling down things. It has a real visceral impact, and that movie is incredible. And I think Donnie Yen calling it now will be very much in our conversation at the ladies next year.
Wow. How does the stunts compare to the stunt woman in Tar when she falls on her face?
It's like that, and there's stairs that people fall down, but it's like a 20-minute long sequence. And it's hundreds and hundreds of steps.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. The movie, it's just like the quick review because I think we want to talk about Arrival a lot. Movie's incredible. A non-spoiler review because it'll still be in theaters by the time this comes out if you haven't seen it yet. Keanu's still great, but Donnie Yen, who plays, like another blind warrior guy like he did in Rogue One, it's the coolest anyone's looked on screen in quite a while. He's so fucking cool. It's incredible. So, worth seeing in theaters. It was the best theater-going experience I've had since the pandemic.
Wow.
In terms of, we saw this in Fall River. It's the suburbs. It's not like seeing it at an indie theater in Boston. The crowd was super into it. There was not people talking and stuff, but people like making noises appropriate to the moment. It was like a concert atmosphere almost. It was pretty incredible.
Wow.
There's a couple sequences in there. People online are picking their favorite one. There's like the crane shot in the apartment. I'm all about the stairs. It's the stairs for me. I'm a stairs guy. We talk about good stairs movies a lot with you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is another good stairs movie.
This is an excellent stairs movie.
Wow.
Yeah, really, really highly ranking stairs movie. So that's my short thing about it.
I'm really upset that in Arrival they use that lift when they could have used one of those like the stairs you use on a plane.
Mobile stairs. Or
They could have.
the stair car from Arrested Development or something.
Yes. Only complain about the movie.
It's the only. Aside from that, though, let's get into it. Hey guys, you want to make a podcast?
It's a strange quote.
That's it. The only quote we're doing.
Right.
What a way to end the movie. Okay, but back at the beginning, who wants to give us a one movie? Oh, wait, no, the Prestige. Remember, yeah, I remember how this podcast works. What is your relationship with this movie?
We actually saw it when it was nominated for Best Picture in 2016? 2016 Oscars? 2016?
Yeah, whenever.
2016 release, so 17 ceremony, but yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we saw it then.
Cool.
And I loved it when we first saw it. It was really, really cool. I think it was actually a pretty good year that year for movies.
Yeah, I think the other things like overshadowed it. I don't remember.
I think it was still one of our top ones, but I think that was a good year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's tough. It's always tough for sci-fi to break through until I guess this year at the Oscars. But
yeah, because at that point we had been watching the Oscars for a few years, and this was like kind of an unusual one compared to some of the other ones that had made it. So it was like really refreshing, and yeah, I had a really good time with it.
Yeah.
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 Same. Just that. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen this movie before.
I was
We're very
shocked.
surprised you
The
haven't seen this
Prestige.
movie.
Yeah. So I hadn't seen Arrival before. I like Villeneuve a lot, but I just hadn't seen this before. And then when I was starting the podcast, I was like, well, eventually that'll be useful. So I hadn't watched it since starting the podcast. That was kind of it. There was a period of time after, I don't even know, because 2016, I was around, I was doing stuff. I don't know why I didn't see this movie. I think I was
missed out.
maybe living in Boston at the time, but I didn't really have any money. That was probably why. There's periods of my life where I just don't go to the movies because, they cost money.
It's so stupid.
But
I
not
don't
now.
know
Now
why.
I go all the time. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, he was saying that, that you were probably poor and couldn't go to the movies. I was like, you should have gotten a job at the movie theater. It would have solved both problems.
Yeah, I really would have. Or just known someone who did and was friendly.
Yeah.
Like I said, I like Villeneuve a lot. This is our first Denis Villeneuve movie. We'll probably do more because I like a lot of his movies. I had a lot of notes, but this being a first-time watch, my notes are pretty much exclusively on the movie. So context and other stuff, you can go to Wikipedia for that instead of listening to me read it as usual. So who wants to give us a 1-minute plot summary? Do you want me to? Do you guys want to? What do you think?
I think you're supposed to. I can, though. I really considered if I did it to do the whole plot summary out of order, but I think the movie's too good to do that to it, even though it'd be really funny.
Well, do you do it chronological order or movie order?
No, just a made-up order, because my time's non-linear anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Telling the movie in the order it presents it to you will be technically non-chronological.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
You want me to go or do you want to go? What do you think?
Let's let Ben do it because I feel like
All right.
I haven't heard
Ben
Ben
never
do a
gets to
plot
do 'em.
summary before.
I don't do them often, so
Yeah.
I'm glad to. As the movie begins, you hear a voiceover from Amy Adams, who is Louise Birch, something like that. Anyway, and she is a scientist, but she's talking to her daughter, saying that I thought this was the beginning of the story, but now I don't know so much about beginnings and endings anymore. Anyway, you see that her daughter only made it to be, in her teens and then died from some disease. Later says a very rare one. She is a professor of linguistics and language, I guess linguistics, right?
Yeah.
And is pulled in by the American government to a situation in Montana, namely that 12 spaceships have come to Earth and one's in Montana. Those other 11 are different places around the globe. And the governments are coordinating to try and figure out what's going on. She goes into it, talks to some aliens, learns how to speak their language. They have like circle language, etc. The Chinese start like posturing like they're going to attack. Russia and Sudan follow suit. And then at the last moment before a big world war kicks off, Louise in the future learns the phone number for the Chinese president or General Chiang, and calls him in the past, which is the present, to tell him his wife's dying words, which she doesn't know until the future. And that gets everything cooled down. And now Louise sees everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went over by 30 seconds.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seemed like a long minute, but...
Yeah. Well, it's tough because I can't really watch the time and think what I'm saying at the same time.
Makes sense.
But one of you should have kept time. Anyway.
I was going to, but as soon as you started, I was going to say 10 seconds left in the future, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
That would have been
It would have made it
smart.
take so much longer if I did that.
Yeah. And you find out that her daughter isn't actually born until after the events of the movie.
Which is like the coolest part.
Yeah.
That is the coolest part.
And then Jeremy Renner asks her if she wants to make a baby.
Yes.
And the movie ends.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great movie.
Good stuff.
Okay, first question. Did you figure out that these were not flashbacks?
Eventually, when...
It takes a long time, but they really give you all you need, like, constantly.
Yeah, eventually, I think it's the time where Jeremy Renner's like, oh, when people immerse themselves in a language, they start to think in that language. Have you been dreaming in that language? And then they're pulling in the other stuff. Mm-hmm. And then she starts going like, who's that little girl? And then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's when she says like, who's that little girl? It's pretty late in the movie.
It's almost the end.
It's almost the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that is when she's into the white cloud space.
It's like right before the reveal. Yeah, they do such a good job with it.
I thought there was a time thing. I really, really loved the way that they played with the audio scape of the movie.
The sound in that movie's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, Greg kept saying that this time, that like the
the
score was
great.
really good.
The score, the sounds, like I think it won
you got
sound
a
editing.
big sound bar. I bet it was rocking.
Mm-hmm.
The subwoofer over there, which gets a real workout in this movie.
It does. It's awesome. The sounds
mine
wicked
did,
good.
which like I never super noticed when mine kicks on, but I did in this movie because there's a couple times where it was just like, whoa, it's blown me out of my recliner.
Awesome. It is awesome. Yeah, the sound's wicked good in this movie. I think I was hypersensitive to it after All Quiet on the Western Front won every sound-based award with its 3 notes it plays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to never look at you, but this is just the way to get.
No,
He's in
cool.
the Robbie seat. You know how it goes.
The Robbie seat, I know.
This is a really good movie. The language is funny in it. Not the alien language, the language that the characters use who speak English. It's weird, but it's fine. It doesn't distract from it, but it's funny because it's a movie about language and the dialogue is pretty silly.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
But still, it's not a big deal. I don't think it detracts from it. It's just kind of silly to me. What accent is Forrest Whitaker doing? Do we know?
No, I have no idea.
Does anyone know?
No.
I don't know. Does Forrest Whitaker know?
I doubt it.
I think so. It's pretty indescribable. Let's see what I'm going to go with whatever the first result from a quick Google search is. Yeah, I thought this might be the case.
What?
You want to guess?
I have no idea.
It's nearby.
Boston?
It's kind of Boston, but he's doing Maine.
Oh.
He's doing Maine, New Englander.
Huh.
Again, that's according to the first result in Google, and we're taking
Correct.
that as gospel. So what I knew about this movie going into it was that, like I said, I liked Denis Villeneuve, and I remember at the time everyone was upset that Amy Adams did not get nominated for Best Actress.
It's a surprise.
Yes, and that's kicked off one of, at least every year, again, until this year, there's a round of they don't take genre movies seriously. And even though this is a sort of high-minded sci-fi movie, it's still sci-fi, and so it gets hit with that tag and doesn't get the respect it probably should have outside of technical categories, which I think it got a decent amount of recognition. But.
It did. It didn't win much. I think just one sound-based category.
It should have. That was great.
Yeah, that's it.
So yeah.
So right off the bat, awesome concept for a movie. A lot of alien movies, not a lot of times where they're like, we can't talk to the aliens. Like, not because the aliens don't want to talk to us, but because we just physically have no idea how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
The fact that the aliens are nonviolent is already unusual. You know what I mean? And not only are they nonviolent, the whole movie is we don't know what they want at all. They seem to have no reason to be here. They've just shown up. Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think there's just something about that I really, really like.
As you know, one of my first thoughts while watching this movie is that Amy Adams has a really nice house.
Yeah,
does.
she has a baller house.
It's wicked nice.
so nice.
On that lake.
Dude, they never say where she is, right? I guess she's helicopters ride distance from Montana, but it was a really big military helicopter, so that doesn't really pinpoint it.
No,
think
I
they
don't
say-
think they do. I'm
Do
pretty sure
they
they
say
don't.
the name of
was
the
trying to,
college?
yeah, I was going to say, I was trying to look for distinguishing characteristics of the college.
I don't think they say that either. It doesn't really matter, I guess. So
no,
they
it
just don't
doesn't.
tell us.
It doesn't super matter, but it only mattered to me in the case of like, I want to go on Google Earth and see if that's a real house because I'm curious.
It's so nice.
It's so nice. There was a dock in the back that they kind of showed in blurry vision a couple times.
I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out how she afforded that house. Like, what is she doing besides
She's
being
got
a
tenure.
professor? I don't
She's
know.
got tenure.
That's why I was thinking maybe they are like in very low population area and that's maybe cheap land, but then you wouldn't be that close to a college, I don't think.
They mentioned she's the first pick for this because she's already done military contract work, so she has the clearance for it. So I bet you if she's doing contract work, she probably gets paid a lot of money for shit like that.
Yes, and she's like the best of the best at doing this. So she's probably, big fish, small pond, but of people who translate things, she's like the rock star of the
Yes.
of the field, I guess.
I wonder how. Every time I see this, I'm like, I wonder how many languages she speaks, because she speaks
Everyone they
Chinese
bring
in the
up.
end. You know
All
what I
of
mean?
them.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I wonder what that sounds like to someone who speaks Mandarin, where she's like running down a hallway yelling in Mandarin.
Yes.
Yeah, so cool movie. We agree on that. And probably a bunch of other things too. Do we want to do it plot wise? It does seem
I think so.
like one that I guess we can, because you don't know that it's doing a trick on you until
Yeah.
pretty close to the end.
I
For
think we
sure.
should, because even right off the bat, it starts with her doing her little thing about how there's like
she
she
does-
thought
she
this was
does
the
enough.
beginning. Yeah. Well, she says something too, like she thought this was her beginning, but it's not, or something like that.
Yeah.
And right away they're like telling you like this isn't this isn't the beginning.
Yeah.
And you watch the daughter die, which
Yeah.
I forgot that
They do enough.
yeah. I forgot they show you the daughter die too, but for some reason I just thought it was heavily implied the daughter died, but they legit like here she is, she's
Oh no,
she's
she's
dead.
very dead.
Yeah,
And then Amy Adams walks down a circular hallway, and you're like, circles.
yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Interesting.
But I
That was sad. I didn't want to be too glib.
yeah, but I really like it right off the bat because as soon as she goes to the college, it's so funny watching her walk through the college and like everyone's just staring at the TVs, and she gets to class and everyone's like.
There's only 5 people in this giant lecture hall.
Yeah.
And she's like, where is everyone? Probably not worth mentioning.
Yeah, I'll
Let's
I'll
move
teach
on.
anyway.
It's kind of funny because this time around, I knew that the daughter thing hadn't happened yet, so I was trying to like figure out what her life was like beforehand.
Pretty
And it
sad, seemingly.
Yeah, it opens up and she's like yelling at her mom, like, I'm fine, mom, I'm the way I always am, or something. And like, I don't know, it makes sense when you think like, oh yeah, she's like getting over the loss of her daughter. But like, no,
She's not.
nothing has happened to her. She's
I
just
just assume she has like
miserable.
an overbearing mother.
Yeah, she's just a little annoyed at her mom, it turns out,
I
in that
guess.
scene.
But she just doesn't seem happy at all the whole time.
I like to like just the way people are reacting to the aliens when they first land too. Like
Yeah.
people trying to drive out of the parking lot are like crashing and beeping, and it's like there's immediately panic even though nothing's happened. You know what I mean?
Well, it's really destabilizing information to get on a impact on humanity level, I guess. So,
And I know.
so yeah, rioting.
Yeah, I know it's like not the main focus of the movie, but I feel like they do a good job showing like what would probably happen. Like I feel like it's pretty accurate, like the way people
Yes.
behave and like you said, the riots. And it seems like the riots are more so at like countries that aren't super stable to begin with. You know what I mean?
People are immediately in a War of the Worlds mindset.
Immediately.
Yeah, like in the Spielberg movie where there's, from pretty early in the movie, explicitly aliens attacking and killing humans.
Yes.
People are reacting like that has been a confirmed thing that's happening.
Yes.
Because, I mean, we saw, like, you know, when COVID happened and you couldn't buy toilet paper. Like, it happens.
Yes. Immediate panic.
Yeah. Yeah. Not that COVID wasn't a danger. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's not what. Anyway, so she's like Forrest Whitaker with doing a perfect Maine New England accent is like, can you do this job? And she's like, literally not without seeing them. That's most of language. And then he's like, well, forget you then.
You're a fucking liar. We're not just, this isn't for looky-loos.
Yeah,
I like the way
the whole movie, he just believes the worst of whoever he's talking to, regardless of context, where he's immediately like, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get to the site. And she's like, I've said 3 words, dude. You just burst into my office. I didn't know we were going to have this meeting. I didn't have time to formulate a plan.
Yes.
And he's like, I know your game, and he leaves.
I do honestly kind of like Forrest Whitaker's character, though, because I feel like normally the military general guy is like always just like a big asshole kind of like, but I feel like his character, the one thing that he does really good is every time he's provided with information, he's just like, yes, this makes sense. I'll change my opinion to be more reasonable.
Right. Yeah. For a while, he thinks the worst of whatever anyone's telling him, and then he just believes whatever the last person tells him for the rest of the movie. He's like, I can't sell this. We're going to shut it down. And then she's like, have you considered that they don't know the difference between you and your? And he's like, okay, I'll buy you some time.
Yeah, fine. That's reasonable.
Kangaroo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, kangaroos. This will work.
Okay. You're on thin ice, Louise. He's like, why are you you brought her here?
Yeah. I like
so mad at her all the time.
As soon as he shows her the phone, he's like, what are they saying? And he's like, got all these questions about it. And she's just going, are these aliens? And I'm like, this is exactly how this would go.
He goes, yeah, that's them or whatever.
Yes, but I'm asking you questions, and you just seemed very interested in the fact that these are aliens.
Do they have mouths?
And yeah, he's very much like, look, once you've been there for a few days, you get over the alien thing. Now I just need answers. And pretty quickly they're there. The helicopter going to her house thing is one of, I'd say, several Close Encounters of the Third Kind homages in this movie. There's a very famous scene in that movie, which if you haven't seen that, right?
Nope.
I've seen it,
Joke's
but
on
I don't
you.
remember
Now
it.
you're going to have to do an episode on it.
Dude, is that another one? I think you mentioned, do they try to talk to the aliens in that one? Is that part of it?
There's a communication aspect, yeah.
Okay.
I won't spoil it, but it's
I mentioned
probably
that one, remember?
Yeah, you mentioned there was a communication aspect to it.
Yeah.
yeah. They do try to communicate with them eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a really famous scene where a little boy ends up getting abducted, where it's nighttime, but then all of a sudden lights filling the windows and doorways of a house.
I know the scene.
And,
Mhm.
So it was giving big that vibes.
Oh, yeah. I could see that.
Yeah. So anyway, she gets in the helicopter and they're off to Montana, but she meets Jeremy Renner in the plane and he's like, nice book. She's like, thanks. Too bad it's all wrong.
Yeah.
So they have a nice, friendly sort of banter going on. And Forrest Whitaker's like, this is why you're both here.
That
Yes.
feels kind of Jurassic Parky.
You
Right.
don't say. And then, Ian Malcolm shows up and does his weird laugh. I know you'd enjoy that.
I brought the scientists. You brought the rock star.
I'm gonna pretend that he's in the background doing that laugh for the rest of this movie. like a very, a pretty dry movie overall, but he's just in the background doing that. He instantly punches it up. They get there. The camp near the shell, which they're calling the alien spaceship, looks a lot like the camp that they go to in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's the last time we'll mention it. And they see the guy getting pulled out in like the medivac thing while they're walking in. They're like,
Yes.
who's that? And of course, it's the person that Louise is replacing because it's a movie. But yeah, pretty soon they kind of just throw them in and they go into the shell pretty quickly.
Yeah. So at this point too is like the first time you see the shell. Ray noticed because prior to this,
I do want to put a fine point on that. So thank you.
yeah, you see it very blurry or dark in all these different news videos, like 3 or 4 times already, but you really can't see it. And then they give you that shot of it, like with the mountains in the background and like the fog coming over and stuff. And it's really, really cool. And that's like a long shot too. And the music is like fucking jamming.
Nice landscape shot, lots of music.
Yeah, that's just show off stuff, but in a good way. I think that's pretty incredible, establishing the size of this thing. And they're rolling, you said fog, but it's clouds because there's so many clouds in the movie.
Yeah.
Coming down into I guess it's a big valley pretty much. And yeah.
I think that's an important shot too, though, because in an alien movie too, there's like 2 things people want to see. It's like, we want to know what the spaceship looks like. You want to know what the alien looks like.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I feel like it's nice that they give you like a nice, like long shot of like, here it is. This is what it looks like. You know what I mean? Think about this for a second. How does this thing fly? And like shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yes. I love that it's a big, seemingly standing the wrong side up kind of, they call it a shell. I guess that's what you'd call it. Like a long, thin shell.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool.
But they say they're like 1,500 feet tall or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, I like when the guy's getting taken out and they're like, what happened to him? They're like, some people just can't handle seeing them. You know what I mean? Because that's another thing that I'm like, oh, that's like,
yeah,
that'd be an issue. You know what I mean? Just like the thought like of this is going to
confronting that
is going to be a big issue for some people.
Just a complete mental break for some, I bet.
Yeah.
Like you said, it will be a big issue when this happens.
Yes.
Because we know it will.
Yeah, I'm nonlinear already, so.
Yeah. I think that the build to the first time they go in is immaculate. It is so good. They're just ratcheting it up. Like you said, like every detail is serving to put you in the mindset that Louise is in, where it's sort of just like, this panic, they're kind of rushing her.
Yeah, it's all really fast.
It's all really fast. It's all sort of happening.
The doctor's explaining a lot of stuff to you really fast. He's like, here's all this stuff. You got to get this and this and this. We're drawing blood. You're getting these shots. This is going to make you feel like this, this, and this. Okay, get out of here. They're getting the suits on, and they're telling them all this stuff about, like, I got to wear the suits, all this stuff.
All this, of course, setting up when they take the suits off, and, what a big progression that is. But for now, it's just freaking her out, and you're right there with her. It's kind of like, oh fuck, okay, here we go, I guess.
Yeah, and then she like her acting's really good too. So she's like you can tell she's like close to a panic attack. She's like breathing heavy. I feel like it makes me nervous the whole time I'm watching this. Like oh my god, she's not gonna hold it together.
Yeah, it is cool because up until this point, you don't know anything about them except what she knows, which is nothing. Because then, after they see the aliens, that's when they do like a dump of information of like what they know.
Yes.
Yeah.
We know nothing. Because you don't know why they're here either. I mean, I guess we have no idea. You don't learn that till like the end of the movie, but
yeah. But like after this first encounter, that's when Jeremy Renner comes on and says stuff about like, nobody knows why they're here except maybe they showed up where there's like not a lot of lightning strikes.
Yeah, that's a little ways away because that's after 1 month, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't know anything at this point.
No, you don't. This whole sequence is great. Them going up in the razor thing. I don't know what machines are called.
I think that's a scissor lift, but I'm not.
Scissor lifts. I'm going to cut out the part until I say scissor lift, so it sounds like I know what it means.
That's impressive. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
I actually only knew it was a scissor lift because I heard you say it in the future.
Oh, okay.
So take your credit.
Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that. So they go up in the scissor lift. This is where you're pulling it from.
Yeah, this is where I learned it. Oh, that's what that is.
I like when it stops and their momentum with the low gravity carries them up a little bit, and then like her panic attack is increasing a little. And yeah, all the gravity stuff here is really cool. Like the people who've been there before, just go and do it. Basically,
I love it too when they chuck the glow stick too. That's when you first see what's going to happen.
Like switches,
and it lands on the wall, and you're like,
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that would be enough to mess somebody up. So
yeah, it's like, okay, I'm trying to do this in my brain. What angle should I jump at?
Yes,
I definitely end up out of my head.
That's what happens because Louise doesn't jump, right?
She gets pulled by Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, he has to like just grab it. He's like, you can do this, and then before she tries to do anything, he just fucking yoinks her.
You can do this. Yeah, he's like, okay, she hasn't said words for 25 minutes, so we're
He's
just gonna
probably done
push
this
her.
with like 6 people.
Yeah, and then he's like, Jeremy Renner seems fine.
I
Everyone
know,
else already went. And
Yeah.
Renner's like, okay, I guess I'll try. Any tips? No. All right.
It's just
Poor
false.
guy. He just like stumbles through.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Are you okay?" And I think this is where he just says "Holy fuck" or something.
Yeah. And for a second, it looks like, oh, did he not make it into that field and he's like gonna fall back?
It does seem like it for a second. Yep.
Yeah, because he jumps like out for the whatever. But anyway, and then because every time it happens in one of the movies we cover, we have to mention there's a dolly zoom as Jeremy Renner's looking up the tube and down the tube back at the ground, and there's a
Really good shot.
dolly zoom. It's great. This when you already know this because in the future you've watched Nope already, but
Yes.
there is a specific element in Nope that I feel like is visually pretty similar to looking up the tube to the white screen.
Oh, I look forward to remembering about it in the future.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I do remember it now.
You already know.
Yes.
You already know. So they go in and they have their first session, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that they keep showing you the canary. They keep showing you that little meter. I don't know if it's like a radiation meter or a sound thing.
Yeah,
They
Well,
show that.
They were one of the ones they were showing was sound.
They keep showing that. You see the canary, and even when the aliens first come too, because they have the fog on the other side of their fish tank.
Yeah, and again, I also have to mention when we all do the Leo meme pointing at the screen when Amy Adams asks for Whitaker what happens now, and he says they arrive.
Yep. We did that.
Nope.
Yeah.
We did. Yep.
And then they arrive, and I wrote Squiddy guys.
Squiddy guys. Yep.
Yeah, we got some heptapods.
The heptapods. Every time I see the heptapods too, I'm like, it's not 2 heptapods. It's 1 heptapod. Those are his hands. I like to imagine like
It does look like knuckles and
it looks
phalangers.
like. And I don't think until the end of the movie you actually see the very top of them.
Yeah,
Really,
but
you
they're
don't
actually much longer than you noticed.
They're much
Yeah.
taller. So it does look like 2 hands someone is doing like a little puppet show with. But
It's not yet. It's the second or third session where they name him Abbott and Costello, but I like that.
yes. Really cool aliens.
Good aliens. Yeah, we like them.
Yeah, very unique. Like I said, a lot of stuff about this movie, I feel like for an alien movie, it's got a lot of unique things. And I feel like that is not the design a lot of people would have picked for their aliens.
No. So I didn't read the novella that this is adapted from the story of your life, but I know that it's heptapods in that also. I think my understanding is they don't actually come down. They stay in orbit, but they send quote unquote looking glasses down.
Mhm.
And I think it's 112 instead of 12.
Yes.
And they communicate through those, I guess. Like I said, I haven't read it, but some details are different. I think it's nice that they're there and just on the other side of the glass from each other.
Yeah, I think it's
feel like
really
that's-
cool.
Really important visual aspect of this movie.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, very important.
Yeah, cool stuff.
I really dig the canary.
Canary's good.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
like that canary.
I like that there's a canary.
Of course, just being a person who watches things, when they brought the canary out, I was like, oh no, that canary's going to die.
Yeah, I was worried about that too.
And it almost survived, but it probably got caught in that big explosion.
No, I don't think they bring it up with them.
No, I know. By then, they're not worried about oxygen anymore.
I just think it's funny because they have like all the technical things, the meters and stuff, reading things, and they're like, and this canary because
Old school.
This
Just in
is
case.
this works,
Don't
I
mess
guess.
with what works. Yeah, I know it's not oxygen; it's other gases, but still. She kind of blows it. Louise does.
In the first session, she does really bad. She's like about to have a panic attack
Yeah.
the whole time. Because we don't see like anything in the first session, if I remember
I
correctly.
think she doesn't do anything.
She doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, she does like nothing. It cuts to them like out of the thing, like getting decontaminated,
Yeah.
and she just goes, "Am I fired?"
And he says, "You did better than the last guy."
Yes.
And then Renner, who seemed like he was kind of like handling it better,
Yes, he seemed
So-
like he was doing fine.
like tells everyone like, "Okay, give me a minute," and then he vomits in the trash.
Yes. Awesome. I love
Good
it.
stuff.
You know what I mean? And just seeing all the stuff they have to go through with the suit and the alarms going off, like do not remove your suits until decontamination is complete or whatever.
Yeah. So they kind of blew it, but then it's this whole sequence, and most of the movie is the pattern of they go in, they debrief and gear up for another attempt. So that's what's happening now. They're gearing up for another attempt. We're seeing that there's riots on the street. Louise's team is looking at the audio files, but like they're really not getting anything out of that. Okay, here's a question I have for you. When they're like a compound was attacked and it's like this religion, and they're showing the website of this religious compound or whatever that was attacked and burned down. And it's like such a specific detail. And they even on the screen, it says it's Pastor Ethan Soper, and it's a shot, it's a picture. And I'm almost sure it's a picture of Matt Damon. Did you guys catch this?
I didn't catch
I did not.
I'm like pretty sure it's a picture of Matt Damon on like a red carpet. And it's just so specific because everything else is like riots on the street. People don't trust the government. This one specific religious compound, and here's their website. And I'm pretty sure it's a picture of Matt Damon.
That's awesome.
I could be wrong. I looked for a long time. And like I said, there's a picture of a character and their name is next to it. And if you Google like Arrival movie 2016 and that character name, nothing comes up. So is it only me who sees this? What message is Denis Villeneuve trying to send me? Anyway. And then I wrote that, and then I was really conspiratorial minded. So my next bullet point is significance of 12, because that's got to do something in the Bible, right? 12, it's something.
They just were like, let's set this. This is like 112 of these. We need like 100 less.
Oh my God, I know all our numerologist fans out there are just screaming at their podcast app. Like, oh, I can't believe they don't know what 12 means.
But I like when they give you these little filler things of like all the chaos going on, like what's happening in the world. Really nice.
And I think this is essentially what would happen. It's just like, and then they get to like the fake Rush Limbaugh guy later who's radicalizing the soldiers. And he's like, the same guy that messed up your taxes are talking to the aliens.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, I probably wouldn't trust whatever the government's doing.
Yeah, I get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, okay.
I like it too because it helps put in perspective that there's a time crunch too.
Yes.
Because everything Louise is doing is kind of slow. You know what I mean? Every session is really slow, and like you can tell the progress is slow. And if there isn't like something showing that there's some kind of time crunch, Forrest Whitaker's character constantly yelling at her about how like you have to do more, it's a lot less reasonable. You know what I mean? Until you see what's going on in the world, and you're like, okay, wait, yeah, you can't take a year to figure out what's going on with these aliens.
No, they have a week basically.
Yeah, it takes over a month. It's like 2 months.
I think they have a month. Yeah,
it's interesting how long it actually takes, because I feel like every other Alien movie, it's like we're talking hours of like things happening.
Yeah,
and this is
it's like 2 months ish.
Yeah, this is like several months of them talking to the aliens and nothing really happening.
No, nothing really happening. They're talking to like the command center that you see a few times, where they have people stationed as interpreters from all different 12 locations.
I love it. And they have their country or languages on their computers. Yeah, I really like that.
It's good stuff. And then at this point, I think it's the Australian guy who says that like we've been playing back audio for them, and they're playing back audio also of us from some unseen source.
Yeah, and he's like, all in all,
what was that about?
I think they were just like, what are you trying with them, basically? And he's like, this is what we're trying, this is what happening. He says, this is what's happening. And then he says, like, all in all, we got nothing. We have no idea.
Yeah, he says we got nothing. But they put such a fine point on like, ooh, and they're playing back audio of us from an unseen source. And I was like, ooh, that's going to play into it. And it's like,
so I think they just mean like they don't know where the audio is coming from. Like, there's no speakers. Like how they...
Well, that's what I mean. It feels like it's setting something up.
I think it's just setting up for when they talk later about like, we don't know anything about their technology. We don't know how their ship works at all.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's
true. It's like, it's more of that. Like we don't know
shit about this.
Any of their shit works. Like they're playing audio. We have no idea how. You know what I mean? We don't know how their ship flies. We don't know what it's doing. I think it's just more of that. Like that they're just showing that they're totally different than us. We have no idea how any of their shit works.
Attempt number 2. She brings a visual aid.
Yep,
and Forrest Whitaker's like, oh, fine.
You're going to teach him how to write too? That's stupid.
That's going to take so much longer. He's like, no, we literally can't physically make the sounds they do, so I don't think it'll take longer.
Yes.
Fine.
Okay, you're on thin ice, Louise.
And now, as soon as she writes to them, is that when they start writing back?
They make their gross circle. That's what I wrote. She says, human. human. And then they make a big circle of sludge, and everyone freaks the fuck out.
Yes. Awesome.
Yep.
As soon as they make that, because it's it just makes aliens so much cooler. The fact that they just like spew out basically ink, but the shit moves. Like every time they form into a circle, it still like moves a little bit once the word is written. So cool.
They got some weird atmosphere stuff in there, you know?
Yes.
So I feel like that kind of helps it float around.
Yeah. And not that this is what you meant, but the atmosphere of this movie is incredible too. It's so good.
Wicked good.
Everything in the army camp is like blue and cold. And then what you think is the past is like warm and orange. But then it turns out that's the future.
Yes.
Yep.
And obviously everything in the alien ship is fairly monotone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But good. Forrest Whitaker's really mad at her when they get back. Again, surprise. And then this is when she's like, we have to ask them, what's your purpose here? I think this is when she writes on the whiteboard.
And she explains it.
When she explains like, well, we can't do this until we do that. And we can't do that until we do this. And we need them to understand what the building blocks of our language are and how they function in a context.
I feel like they do a really good job in this movie explaining the linguistic stuff.
Yes.
Because it is really important to the movie, and they make it so simple for you to understand like the importance of different things. Like her going over that what is your purpose thing is obviously for us. And it helps because it makes you see how smart Louise is. Like a lot of the things she does, like her thinking to bring the whiteboard and like explaining why these things are important and where they're going to get tripped up and things like that. And then even in I think the next scene, the next time they go, she met like as soon as they do the symbol, she's like, I think this is that symbol again. Like she knows right away. She can recognize already.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's pretty soon too where she's like looking at the things and saying like, oh, I think that curly thing's a question mark, or like no, it's a question. Yeah. And like she picks up on shit very, very fast.
I do like how she plays it and how the character is written to be fairly realistically a person who is very good at this, at like deducing this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
How she's looking for those kind of signifiers of like the curly part. Maybe that means it's a question. Maybe that's some kind of punctuation. Yeah.
I think that's what it is. A lot of the movie, does it for me.
It is like an investigation, really.
Yes.
She's doing, yeah.
Everything is very real. Like every time I see something like this is how it would be, you know? So I think that's part of it. But yeah, the what is your purpose thing, I feel like is right where they start getting me with like the linguistic stuff. I'm like, well, this is really cool. Like, yeah, that is important. You know, that would get fucked up. Like they wouldn't understand. I like when she says too, like we have to know, we got to make sure they know when we say you, we mean the aliens and not like, why are you Joe Alien here or something like that. I'm like, oh, that's really funny. Why am I here? Oh, my job is to drive the spaceship.
Right. Yeah. but it's like correct, you know?
Yeah. It's so funny because it's such a simple sentence, but like when you break it down, I guess like, oh yeah, there is kind of a lot you need to know.
Like, okay, I'll buy you some time.
You're like, oh yeah, there's a lot to this.
Third attempt is where it seems like they're confused. So she takes her suit off.
Yes.
And then Ian does too.
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, okay, me too.
And I think this is where they get their names. Right? Because they communicate like Louise, Ian.
Yes.
And then they both put up the stuff. And then this is when she says they're going to call him Abbott and Costello.
I think so.
Or actually, Renner says that.
I noticed at that point too, he said, everyone dies eventually, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is this like a...
Yeah, Ian's got nothing to live for either.
No.
He's so single.
At this part, too, I noticed when she's like thinking about taking the suit off or is taking the suit off, they keep flashing to the bird. Yes. And all I can think of is she's thinking, well, the bird's okay. And I'm like, no, Louise, that's the same one, right? No, Louise, they die every time we bring them back. That's the same canary as last time, right?
Yeah. And I like that the soldiers keep being like, can we like forcibly remove them? And then the people back at camp are like, no, let them go.
Yeah. Like, honestly, why not? Like, worst case scenario, they're just going to die, right? It's probably, if it's too late.
It's already too late.
It's already too late for them.
Yeah.
I guess they're worried about you bringing back some biological thing, right?
Yeah. But this is one of the iconic, in a literal sense, images from the film where her hands on the glass.
Yes.
And then the Squiddy boy puts his hand on the glass too.
Yeah.
Abbott, I think, is always on the left.
Now that's a proper greeting or something.
Yeah. I do feel kind of bad that later on in the movie, when she goes in there and she's like, "Where's Abbott?" And like this guy's like, "We told you our names, but sure, he's dying. Thanks for asking."
Yeah.
You couldn't even use his real name. Anyway.
And then when they get back from this session is when they're having like a chat with the doctor, and he's like,
they look fine, but I'm going to give them all the drugs.
give them every drug we have and do more blood work.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, I guess we'll just let them keep going without the suits.
And then we get to a plot that I find to be totally unnecessary in this movie. They show that one squarely soldier on the phone with his family, like, it's fine.
Yes.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, so the first time I saw that, I assumed it was just to show more of like the panic that's going on in the world. You know what I mean? Like this dude's wife is like, because I assume they can't say anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the same guy because you can tell because he's got like evil villain bone structure.
He does, yeah.
And when he's the one who's been like looking at Louise, like this asshole kind of vibe the whole time. So yeah, that was like, ooh, I guess this guy's going to be the conflict in this movie because they haven't really introduced Michael Stuhlbarg, who plays the government guy, who's like, obviously this is bad news for us and we need to like prepare for war.
Yes. He's the very
but he hasn't fully emerged as like the main antagonistic force in the movie yet.
There's not even because he never even ends up being the real, you know what I mean? Because no one at this compound makes any of the decisions.
No, he's ultimately the guy that is like commanding people to hold guns up at Jeremy Renner and Louise at the end of the movie.
Yes. But he doesn't shoot him.
No, he doesn't shoot him. Right, yeah. But so I feel like the soldiers mutinying is kind of like, it feels so much like Villeneuve had the idea of, and I know this is adapted from a novella and maybe it's in that. And if it is, I'm sorry. But like the image that he probably came up with and then maybe worked back from, I said probably, but I shouldn't say that. He's a really good writer and director. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. Of them, the gravity changing and them getting thrown out through like the pod bay doors and the explosion happening while the aliens close the doors so they don't die. It feels like they came up with that idea and they're like, how do we get an explosion in there? Let's every like 25 minutes have one shot of this guy not having a good time.
The explosion is good though, because it does like change stuff. We'll get to that. You know what I mean?
Yes, it changes the relationship.
It does, kind of. Yeah.
But yeah, so Amy Adams is spending time decoding the circles, and she's having some flashbacks, or so we think.
Yeah, so I really like too that the flashbacks start early. Like they start real early. As soon as she says anything about the circles, they start. Mm-hmm. And you don't realize that at the time, but it's because she's already learning the language. Yes. Like she starts, like you can tell she's figuring out the language pretty quick, like the basics of it, and that's when she starts the flashbacks, which now by the end is she's learning the language so she can see the future. And it's awesome because every time she has a flashback, she has like a bit of a panic attack, but you really are like, oh, well, she's remembering her daughter dying. You know what I mean?
Like she's in a stressful situation, so she's remembering stressful parts of her life. It makes sense.
And you don't put together, no, she's stressing out because she's having visions that she does that make no sense. She's having what she thinks are hallucinations.
Yes. I don't, I mean, I feel like in other movies who try and do something like this, it can feel cheap, but it doesn't really here. Like it's not telling you, she's not communicating, she's not going to Ian and being like, I'm seeing the weirdest things that don't look like anything that have happened to me in my life before. Yes. She just looks like someone who is like wrestling with these inner demons. But you later find out she's seeing things that she has never seen happen to her before. And they're
probably should have brought that up to the doctor, don't you think?
Yeah.
That's with the scene with Ian where he's like, are you dreaming? And she's like, I'm not unfit for the job or something. She wants this job.
Yeah.
So she doesn't, she knows if she
doesn't
brings
want to say
this up,
wrong.
she's off.
Right. And that's what I mean. There is reason in there that she is not telling people.
Yes.
that. Because this is like, it's either here or one of the next few times they're at camp where the zero-sum game thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. In that one, it's very clear that she is
Yes, and it's her in the future remembering the present instead to find the word.
Yes.
Which again, you don't realize is happening at the time.
Yes. Well, it's not her in the future remembering the present. It's both events happening together, essentially.
Yes. Yeah.
Or something like that.
But yeah. In the chronological, if you were, and I know we shouldn't do this, but if you were to look at the events of the movie linearly, it's her in the future not being able to remember the word, but then remembering, telling her daughter, like, oh, it's your dad who would know that word. And then thinking of a time in the past where she did hear the dad say that word.
Yes.
Which is really cool, which is something that obviously at the moment you're like, I don't know what any of that was. That was weird.
Yes.
And I think this is where I started thinking like, okay, maybe this isn't a flashback because that would be a really weird structure narratively.
Yes.
Because it didn't seem to add anything in a weird way. Okay. They're back in the ship, and this is when the Jeremy Renner heptapods voiceover thing happens. This is the first time they call them heptapods, I believe.
Yes. So this is, now they've jumped forward
It's a montage
month.
of a bunch of sessions.
Yes. This is them jumping forward 1 month. And this is, because this, I think in this voiceover, he says something like, in a month, we've learned almost nothing, essentially.
Yeah, and everything we have, and it's like Louise is putting the rest of us to shame because no one else is doing anything useful.
Yes. I love this little voiceover because it's an alien movie. I want to know about the aliens. So it's really cool for them to be like, the ship, it basically doesn't even, it's basically not even here, right?
Yep.
They're like, that's it. Like it doesn't, there's no sign at all that it's here.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what it's made out of. We don't know how it got here. We know nothing.
Yeah, it admits nothing.
Amidst nothing, yeah. That was, it's so cool. I don't know why either. There's like, you have questions. The answer to all of them is, we don't know. I'm like, whoa, that's awesome.
I'm still just blown away that it's been so long.
I think it's just because they answer so many like interesting things I wouldn't have thought of. Like, oh, well, how, like things that they would have thought like, okay, well, what is it outputting, you know, like what waste is it making? How are they talking to each other, you know?
Yeah, there's no, the air is undisturbed by any signal or radio waves in between. Yeah,
it's like, we've checked all this, no answers.
Yeah, like just those are things I wouldn't have ever thought of checking, and them telling you like, we checked it and there should be something.
Well, that's why they didn't invite you when this happened in a few years.
Yeah, they end up, it's for different reasons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. I don't know if I can talk about it because I technically haven't signed the documents yet.
So that's fine. If you haven't signed the NDA yet,
you
can talk about it.
But I do.
Yeah, okay,
but
right. You can't say what services you performed for the aliens though.
Services rendered.
And then the next scene, there's some light flirting in the back of a pickup truck.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I also like when they mention why they picked these spots and they're like, oh, it has like not a lot of lightning strikes, maybe, or like someone had a concert in all these spots. So whatever.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So great assault. Yeah. And this is where they both commiserate about being single. And it's not like it's like like I said, it's slightly flirty, but it's more just like two people who are non-military and both in this situation that they find extremely overwhelming.
Yes.
Pretty much.
And the way Louise talks, it could be interpretive that she's had a divorce, but she has not.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But she does. She feels like she can remember being married, but she doesn't. She hasn't quite put her finger on it yet.
Yes. No, she says something like, "Oh, even with like the being able, like communication skills aren't going to help you to not be single or something like that."
Which, what we know about her, that she's estranged from her husband over the death of her child, makes sense. But it turns out she doesn't know that happens yet.
Yeah.
Or with this guy that she's talking to. Anyway, it's day 25. It's a news report. It has big day 25 emblazoned on it. Everything's bad. The government's handling of the crisis is under question. The soldier guy is watching a fake Rush Limbaugh on YouTube.
This is also when the first picture, is this when the first picture of the aliens comes out? Or is that a little while later?
It might be.
I think that in one of the news broadcasts, I think it's around now where it's like, oh, panic after the first picture of the aliens is leaked, and it shows just a picture of the heptapod behind the glass.
Everyone's like, "Oh God, I gotta steal a TV." I'm so sad about this guy's face. I'm gonna break a window.
Which
Poor
is
Abbott's like, dude, chill.
it's not that bad.
Yeah, I guess I could have used a different angle with my 7 arms, but
Abbott leaked the image. I would have bet money on one of the soldiers. Abbott leaked his own nudes.
yeah.
It's a PR stunt.
Yeah, that's the twist at the end of the movie. Amy Adams goes in when they're not expecting her, and they're like, "We're fully wearing clothes." They're like, "You've been naked every time we see you?" They're like, "Oh, we didn't think you noticed. We didn't. We thought it was funny.
I love it.
You're not going to believe what that smoke we've been emitting is."
Oh my God. But the looting and stuff is just very realistic. I really do believe it.
Me too.
Yeah.
She's having a lot stronger, quote unquote, flashbacks now. And this is when Jeremy Renner says if she's been, dreaming, if she's
And yeah, and he gives you the thing about the
language rewires your brain. You think in whatever language.
It's
do
funny.
You think you're dreaming in their language?
I always liked this scene because the first time I watched it, I'd be like, oh, I've heard that before. The thing about like your language determines how you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's,
Cool
that's like
theory.
that's a theory.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah.
And is this when she sees the heptapod in the room with her?
Yes, when she's like, oh, just because I'm dreaming in a language or having weird dreams doesn't mean like I'm unfit for this job. And she looks over and Abbott's there.
And he goes like, yeah. Yeah. And he turns on your subwoofer. And he just goes, "Bah."
Poor Amy Adams. Something's wrong.
And then the whole time this has been going on, they're talking about, and again, I mean, we're not harping too much on the dialogue because I think overall it works for this movie. But when they introduce General Chiang, the Chinese leader, they say they call him the Big Domino because what he does, the others follow.
Yes.
It's like, okay.
Who says that?
I believe it's one of the like people that are working there.
Yeah.
Says it to them. Anyway, so China is like, posturing. A lot of eventually China's cool, but it is very specifically about China fucking stuff up for a while in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which I should say Denis Villeneuve is Canadian, so
Yeah.
it is explicitly US military than with Amy Adams though.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I noticed too is that China isn't as boogeyman-y in this movie as a lot of others because it's more so like China. They just mentioned that everyone's going to follow whatever China does, but for a long time they don't mention much. I think they say China's being like kind of quiet and not sharing their info. But it takes a while before they're like, China's like, get the aliens out of here, or says something like the aliens are doing.
Yeah.
And the China's message is something like, we all have to work together to destroy the aliens. Which,
yeah, I hope everyone follows China's lead in like declaring war.
yeah, declaring war on the aliens. You know what I mean?
This is when they show a clip of Chiang to Amy Adams, and she realizes that they're talking about mahjong symbols,
Mm-hmm.
and she says to Forrest Whitaker, "Oh, they're teaching them how to speak in terms of a game that is about winning." And this is where she says, like, if all I ever gave you was a hammer, then everything would look like a nail.
Yes. Which was cool because like they don't really go into detail about how they're using mahjong to teach them.
Yeah.
But I'm immediately like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, and it's cool just to think like everyone is doing very different things to try to communicate with these aliens.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's like so cool. You know what I mean?
And it is interesting because they are getting something out of them because they say on that little news program like that someone got a message to use weapon. And then there was another one too. So they are like getting information.
They're ahead of everybody else.
Yes. After this is when he says to Amy Adams, like, "Oh, time to ask the big question." And they do.
And it's because China, the thing I like here is China asked the big question just before, too early, and get an incorrect response like Amy Adams warns. Now they have to ask the question early.
They get the same response.
And they get the same fucked up response.
Yes. and which is offer weapon.
Offer weapon.
And then they're in the room, and she's like, well, we don't know if they're offering or they're asking. And we don't know if they know that tool can be separate from weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And they have been, again, if you've only shown them something where you're trying to defeat someone else, then weapon is a beneficial, useful thing.
Yes.
But then Michael Stuhlbarg's like, it means they're trying to make us all kill each other. And she's like, you don't have any evidence for that. And he's like, look at all the evidence I have.
Yes.
England and India. And he mentions a bunch of other things too.
Yes. I do like that all the military guys, every time she says anything, they always go back to like very militaristic things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? That's what you know.
That's what they know.
They got the hammer.
Yep.
And then this is when all the interpreters start turning off their things.
Yes.
Which is a cool moment.
Yeah, except for Australia. They're the last to go.
Yeah. But you can see like over the shoulders of the interpreters are like people with guns like telling them to turn their shit off, which I like. And then this is when, because right after they were told offer weapon, they got out of there. And now they're going back in basically mid-session.
Yes.
And this is when
I think the Russian scientist gets executed too on the news or something like that right around now. I like this too because the tension really builds here when you're like, holy shit, everything is falling apart. You know what I mean? Because I think China has said they're going to attack in 24 hours at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They go back in and the soldiers are looking shady because they put a big bomb up in front of the screen.
Yeah, 'cause we saw that.
Yeah.
And then they're telling them like, oh, you can't go back in there. You can't go back in there.
And then one of them's eventually just like, just let him go.
Yeah.
I think they'll die too, but that's fine with us because we've been watching too much Fox News.
Very relevant now, huh?
And then, and you can tell Amy Adams doesn't want to say this, but she says, give technology now, which isn't really her style. And it's a cool moment when the guy's tapping on the glass.
Yes.
I like it.
It's really cool.
And that's Abbott, I believe, is tapping on the glass. And then they do like the co-writing thing.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Really cool.
She's having more flashbacks.
Yep. Well, now she can write in the language,
Yes. You know. And she gets the big cloud of information.
Yes.
And they hear gunshots from below.
Uh-huh. And then the heptapods kick them out.
Yeah, and that's a really cool image.
It's so cool.
I've said that this whole plot line is maybe working backwards from this image, but that doesn't cheapen this particular image, which is really cool, where they like start floating and then the gravity reverses back down.
Yes, it's so cool. I also like on like a second watch because you know that the heptapods know about the bomb.
Well, that's what, when he started tapping on the glass, I thought that's what he was trying to be like, yo, look over there.
Yeah, so on a second watch, because I mentioned to him, like, why would he be telling him about the bomb? You know what I mean? He already knows what's going to happen. And Ray's like, oh, no, he's not telling him about the bomb. He's trying to get her to come touch the glass.
Yes.
But they do know about the bomb because they know everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just like,
he knows he's got enough time to get this information off.
Yes.
Before
He's not
the
even in a
bomb goes
rush.
No, he's like, well, I know this is going to work out.
Yeah, I already know how this
and I'll
goes.
die shortly after, but I will have done my purpose here.
Yes. Which his purpose was to drive the ship.
Yes. Right.
What is your purpose? I die.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And then Amy Adams is like, as long as they stay, we still have time after she wakes up from her concussion.
Yes.
And it's been a bit of time, we think, maybe.
It can't be too long because General Chiang's going to attack in 24 hours.
Well, that's a good point. The shell goes way up higher.
Yes.
China releases its ultimatum. And then they're just trying to decode the circles.
Yes.
And she's like having bigger, stronger flashbacks. But then it's Renner actually that cracks the code because he finds the time. Yes. So a certain amount of times, and he realizes that the writing versus negative space is 1/12.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they go to the generals and stuff like we gotta share it, and they're like, this you can't look, and all the screens are off. Like, what do you want us to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And this is where the non-zero sum game comes up.
Yes.
Which makes more sense because it's a non-zero sum game. We both get something out of it, right?
Yes.
We all need to work together.
Yes. And that is pretty late at this point. So this is around where you're able to realize, you know what I mean?
Yes. Sorry, that whole section where we talked about it earlier, that was my bad. Bad note taking.
And then I think this is also when Amy Adams goes back and looks at the shit and realizes she can read all of them.
Yes.
Like she's like, I can just read these. I know exactly what they all say.
Yes. And then, and then she says, she doesn't say, she sees herself in the white void with the smoke in her hands. She sees the pod elevator coming down from the thing. And she just kind of pieces out, steals a car, and goes off to the thing.
Yes. And I love, they see her like this thing coming down to pick her up. And they are not immediately like, we got to get a truck and try and get over there as fast as possible. They're like, well, I guess she's going to the aliens. We've never seen this shit happen before, but I guess she's in cahoots.
This is crazy.
This shit's crazy.
Gonna remember this one. As she's going up, the inside turns like almost like an icy white, and her hair turns into CGI hair.
Yes.
Which is, this isn't that old a movie, but the hair CGI doesn't look great.
No, that whole scene of her in there does not look particularly great, but that's okay.
It's fine. I like it for mood, and it's fucking creepy in there.
Yeah, and I like that you get to see the heptapod up close, and it's like, holy shit, you have like this huge head.
It's got
thing.
like shoulders and a knob at the top there.
Yes. I'm like, where's your face?
Yeah, and I think the implication is that it is like around the knuckles, but it does look like the silhouette of someone's shoulders and head at the top.
It does.
So I don't know.
I assume their head's big. They have big brains or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we finally get subtitles for what they're saying.
Yeah, although I guess when it's sort of like speaking later, you do see that there's something like moving in the top of its dome. I don't know. Yeah, so she's just talking directly to it now. I like that she can read this, so you're just seeing subtitles when they're talking.
Yes.
Well, not talking, when they're writing now. And Abbott, death process is a pretty cool turn of phrase.
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like this. She's asking him for help, and he's telling her like, "You have weapon. Use weapon."
Yeah, Louise has weapon.
Yeah,
use weapon.
Yeah, and she's like, "I don't know what any of this means."
She went up there so that he could send a message to the 11 other shells, but he's instead like, "No, you have to be the one to do this."
Yes,
and then she finally manages to ask what their purpose is. And he says, "We need your help in 3,000 years.
And she's like, "What? How do you know that? How do you see the future?"
Yeah. And he's just like, "Peace.
Yeah.
You got everything you need."
I think he says Louise sees future too, or something like that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when she realizes, and I guess when we all like, that's where it cements like that she is seeing the future.
Yeah. And then for the rest of it, it's doing the temporal stuff, and it's weaving in all the daughter stuff with everything she's doing. Stuff is the proper word here.
I like that it loops back into mommy and daddy talk to animals. I like that a lot, that they because they had shown that in like the middle of the movie, the daughter draws the picture of mom and dad and the canary.
Yes.
Oh, I remember now. One of the other countries had the message, "There is no time, use weapon."
Yes, there is no time. Was a message in another
Yeah.
country. There is no time. Use weapon. And I was like, that's funny because what they mean is like that time's an illusion, man.
Yeah. The time is not of the essence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
There is no time.
the spaceships all go horizontal. And in some places they are actually like damaging property because they're going real low onto the ground. They show like one shot of them like breaking power lines and stuff.
Yes.
Which is rude. And I wrote back here, the flashbacks are hitting in a good way. And she's seeing her daughter ask her why her name's Hannah, and she's explaining the palindrome, and you're like, oh, I get this.
Yeah.
And then she starts, this is when she's reading the book that she will write in the future and seeing herself give a lecture on heptapod language.
Mm-hmm.
As she is just like, oh, I think Jeremy Renner comes over and she's like, we got to get out of here. And she's looking at the thing. And she's like, oh, I can just fully read this now. I know exactly. I can read this. He's like, oh, fuck. That's cool. And then she starts seeing the forward flash of her at the gala talking to Chiang.
Yeah. I like when she like first walks out at the gala, all the flags that are up.
Yeah. And then you also see the like a heptapod circle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because it's some kind of like unity gala thing. You know what I mean?
I think it's, I mean, if you want to play it out, all the countries had to work together to make this happen. And there's probably like, okay, now that we know there's other people out there that aren't on Earth, we got to get Earth on the same page.
I think that's the whole thing is
Yeah.
that's what the heptapods wanted was we need to be unified as one planet rather than all these countries.
But yeah, this whole scene's really, really great because the way that the actor who's Chiang, who was I thought was in other stuff, but I didn't actually I couldn't figure out what I was recognizing him from. He's in a bunch of stuff. He works a lot. He gives her his phone number eventually, but that whole scene, you're like, is he angry or what's going on? And you realize like he's just sort of like, I think this is what I need to do right now, but I'm not really sure, and I don't know how this works.
Yeah, so this is
I think it's important that I show you my phone number.
It's in the future, so I assume that people kind of know that heptapod language does something like this, right? Because we have to know the significance of it at this point.
But it seems like she has like the cipher or whatever.
Yeah, she's like, I think the only one. So, because he says something like, I don't know how your brain works. I won't say that, but I think this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
So he like, you know what I mean, is aware, like, I think I tell you this and that's how you know it. And it's really cool. It's a really cool scene.
Yeah.
And
it's a really cool scene.
Especially too, like, it starts with him just giving the phone number. You know what I mean? So it's her, like, then she steals the phone and she's like making the call. And the whole time she's like, but what am I going to tell this guy? What am I supposed to tell this guy?
I'll never forget what you said to me.
And
it's the last word, my dying wife's final words, and he leans in and says it into her ear. And basically you hear on her satellite phone that Chiang picks up and she's just yelling these words at him just right off the bat.
I mean, that's a way to get someone's attention.
It's interesting too, because the future Amy Adams doesn't know what's going on when he's saying this stuff. I noticed, like, she was confused, like she didn't expect him to be giving her the phone number, and
she hasn't done the call yet at
Right,
that point
I know,
because she's doing time in a different order than like the order we see the movie. I think cutting out the very first, the prologue, that's the order Amy Adams is living in.
Yes.
So it's chronological for her,
right, which is weird.
Yes, so that's why she's confused, because she hasn't done the call yet.
Yeah.
Because she's living time in a weird order.
I feel like that must be weird for General Chiang, because he's like, I think I'm supposed to show you this, and she's just confused, like.
Yeah, and then he's like, all right, you don't seem too happy, but okay, I hope that works.
All right, I'm glad nobody knows what's going on
like,
here.
You look around like, all right, we're all still here, so I guess it works.
I also like,
we didn't all kill each other.
I think it was like a scene before this when she's with Hannah on the beach. She goes, Hannah, what day is it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a great scene.
Keeping track of the day must be a nightmare for her.
Yes.
Right.
Forever
Well, I guess days
now.
don't really exist for her.
I feel like living a non-linear life cannot be fun.
No, it can't. Everything works out. China backs off. Everyone else backs off. China backs off and does an emergency press conference where they say, and here's all our data. We're going to share all our data.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that they do a lot of the exposition dump through the news too, because the news comes back up. Oh, you know, China's going to blow them out. Oh, wait, this just in. China has, you know, emergency press conference. They're backing off and sharing all their data.
Yeah.
And as this happens, that's when we see the ships leave, right?
Yeah. And then there's some Amy Adams voiceover happening here on montage, and you see that like the father was Jeremy Renner the whole time in some of these like quick flashes. And yeah, the ships leave and turn into clouds or turn on active camouflage. You don't really know.
Just disappear,
They
which
kinda
is extra cool because there was no sign they were there to start with.
Pretty much. Yeah. Right. You're totally
And
right.
we didn't see them land either.
Nope. They were just there.
You assume that they like pew, shoot down onto it, but they might have just been there.
Yep.
Maybe it has something to do with how they exist in time. You know what I mean? They're wherever they want, whenever they want, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then Amy Adams asks Renner, like, what would you do if you could see your whole life? And he says, I don't know. Maybe I'd say what I'd feel more often. I don't know. And then this is when he has the line like, it turns out it wasn't, you know, about meeting them. It was about meeting you.
Mm-hmm.
And they hug, and she says like, I forgot how good it was to hug you.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they've never hugged before.
Yeah.
And then there's like a Terrence Malick-esque low angle montage of the girl like running through the grass and like life and celebration and sadness and happiness and everything that happens. And then he asks her if you want to make a baby.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do they need help with in 3,000 years?
It's a good question.
I don't know.
Earth will be very different by then. We might not be able to help them.
No, they know that we can, I think.
Well, that's a good point.
We've already helped them.
Right. That's already happened. Okay. Yeah, I take that back.
Yeah. We've already helped them for
What
sure.
could we possibly offer?
Right. Exactly.
Well, 3,000 years, and we have the non-linear time thing now, and we're unified, so maybe we can offer a lot.
Yeah, we got 3,000 years to figure it out, but time's a ticking.
Not really. I like when she explains to Hannah why Jeremy Renner left too, because that's kind of cool that she like knows her. I don't know, it's fucked up. She knows her daughter's gonna die, and she has the kid anyway. And then I guess that Jeremy Renner knows she can see the future and shit.
Yeah, she says that he said I made the wrong choice. So which part of that do you think she's talking about?
She shouldn't have had a kid. Like yeah, for sure. He does.
I thought it was that she shouldn't have had a kid, or it could have been that she shouldn't have told him that this was going to happen.
I think it was like you shouldn't have had the kid if you knew she was going to die.
Yeah, but is it like a Dr. Manhattan scenario where she has to? Where stuff just happens even if she knows it's going to happen and be bad?
I don't think so. That's why there's the whole question of, do you want to make a baby? Because she says yes.
Yes.
Because she could have said no.
There is a decision made there. So
yeah.
I think you're right. I was just offering an alternative, but this makes more sense by a lot.
Yeah. It does bring into question the whole like free will thing though, because time's nonlinear, like all the future is happening, the past is, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
because the daughter's in Amy Adams' timeline that she's living, the daughter already died. So can she say no to that question?
Right. Yeah. Know. So this is this just a Louise thing? The seeing stuff in a circular.
I would say no. Like, I think it's a tool for humanity to be able to.
As of
that's
now,
what I thought too, but it doesn't seem like anyone else is doing it.
Yeah, I know, but she like, as of
Yet.
like, like
That's
she's like teaching the language to everybody. Right? Yes. She's teaching the language.
She's the one who has to teach it. Yeah.
But I don't understand.
Oh, you're right. It's not like everyone else learns it automatically, or she wouldn't be writing the book and giving lectures on it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. Jeremy Renner never learned the language.
He was there too. He should have absorbed a lot of it.
It might be something that's just hard to do.
I bet it is. Yeah.
Maybe you
it's probably really hard to do.
Maybe it's something you have to like teach kids instead.
I guess he's a science guy and not like a linguist guy.
Yeah. You have to start learning heptapod in grade school. You know what I mean? If you want to.
And it seems like she gets enough of a jolt of understanding from Abbott through the windscreen to show her just a bit into the future to a version of her that already knows all of this.
She's literally reading the dictionary that she wrote.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So I guess that works.
Because I noticed it was like a heptapod language, a handbook or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's literally called something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. I guess maybe that's the thing. It's like she knows the language fluently because she already knew it.
Yes. I do think that though, like why every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, because everyone like General Chiang is confused, but not that confused. You know what I mean? Like he understands that like there's some like her time isn't right. So people are aware of what the language does. You know what I mean?
She's unstuck in time, kind of.
Yes.
Brain wise.
It is such a weird concept, but it's so cool. Like there's just so much happening with this movie because it's like a story just about people too. Because there's Louise and the daughter and Jeremy Renner, which is already cool enough. Like I like the little stories like that. But then there's fucking aliens. Why are these fucking aliens here? And it turns out they're here to teach us how to live in a non-linear timeline, like where you can be in any part of your life at any time. It's so cool. Who the fuck thought of this?
I can tell you.
I know.
I told you I didn't take any notes on anything besides what actually happens.
I guess how the fuck did they think of it is more of the correct question.
Yeah, that's true. So one thing that I think is worth mentioning is that the title card doesn't come up until the end of the movie. So it was written by Ted Chiang, the novella. And usually that's just a lot of movies just put the title card at the end. But we get to the end of the movie and it's like, we've arrived at this understanding.
The title card should have came in the middle.
That would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been so confused.
All good title cards come like at least an hour in, I think.
Yes.
It's good. I heard you paint houses in The Irishman. Comes pretty far in. Mad Max goes to black after the big truck drives into the windstorm.
Oh,
yeah. Drive My Car comes in real late, right?
It's like a half hour in.
Yes. I was like, oh God.
Yeah, you scale that up to a normal movie that would have shown it at the beginning. You're like, oof, that was just the prologue.
Yes.
Yeah, we were really
We've got 10
nervous at
times
that
the amount of
point.
movie left.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, so cool show. Cool show. Wow. Yeah, cool show. That's what I'm going
Yeah.
to call movies from now on. Cool
Mm.
shows.
So did she make the right choice?
Yeah, obviously. He'll get over it.
No, she made the wrong choice.
I don't think but she had already made it.
Yeah, she did. It was wrong still.
Yeah,
The
maybe.
first time I watched it, I thought she made the wrong choice, and the second time I thought she made the right choice.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Nope.
That
wrong
kid wrote
choice.
poetry. She can sell that.
That's what. Yeah, her opening the box instead of a book's about. I thought it was like poetry that she ripped off. Can't afford the taxes on this house easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I did really like how it portrayed Amy Adams especially, but just like academics, counting Jeremy Renner too, because like that it rang pretty true from my limited knowledge of academics, but thinking of it in terms of problem solving and really sort of logical steps to take to do it. And because if you presented me with like figure out how to talk to these aliens, I want to know, but there's like an actual process. I love that there's a process.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and that they explain it to us too. Like I said, they do a really good job
Right.
of all the linguist stuff, explaining like why she's picking certain words and how they're going about getting to this question. Even like the offer weapon thing, they go over it again. Like, us offer, you offer, is weapon tool or technology, or it could mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I do like all that.
So, yeah, I mean, I like everything about this movie, I think. Besides that one weird soldier plot where they watch Rush Limbaugh and then try and blow up a spaceship. But so what's the movie about? Like communication and stuff, right? But
I don't even know, dude. Like there's a lot happening. So I don't even know.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm not very deterministic personally, but it does seem like it's really only happening to Amy Adams, that people are mad at her for not telling them the future. That's a weird place to be.
And she's like, "You want me to tell you the future? I don't even know what day it is. I don't know when the future is.
Like, bro, it's horrible in here in my
I
brain.
could try, but there's a 50% chance I accidentally tell you the past. I don't know.
I feel like it's just gonna be unpleasant.
It
Like I
can't
wouldn't
be
want to. I
pleasant.
wouldn't want to live that way.
She does seem off. Like once we realize like she's non-linear, like you said, when General Shang's talking to her, she's just like totally lost. You know what I mean? And then she seems kind of lost in future self or past self after that. Like she really does seem like it's a burden.
Yeah. And she does ask him, if you knew what was going to happen, would you make different choices? And he doesn't say yes. And then
Mhm.
she's like, all right, then I guess we're doing this.
Yeah.
And then he gets mad at her later.
Asshole.
Jeremy, I hope Jeremy Renner's okay. He got run over by that snow tractor.
Yeah, we
Yes.
were talking about that.
Yeah.
He seems like a kind of strange guy anyway. He had that app.
I don't know what app.
He just had an app that was just like stuff Jeremy Renner's up to.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
A bit weird.
But like there was like a currency on it, like Renner bucks.
I don't like that. That's weird.
If you got like 20,000 Renner bucks, he'd like call you or something.
That's odd.
I'm making all that up from vaguely remembered stuff.
Yeah, he got ran over by a snowplow. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it was his own fault.
Was it? I thought he was helping somebody.
He was helping them poorly.
Oh well, good intentions.
It was a tractor that it was his. And it was one that has like it wasn't like it was like a snowcat kind of thing
Mhm.
that has like huge tread tires, almost like a tank.
Yeah.
And he was on a hill and it started sliding away. So he jumped on top of the moving treads to try and get back in the cabin of it.
Oh,
And he got pulled under because they were moving.
that is not what I thought happened.
That's what happened.
Clearly, I only read the headlines.
Right. The headline's like, oh my God, he got hit by a snowplow. That's like, it was his own
Yeah.
and it was very predictable.
Didn't see that part.
I knew someone who got hit by a snowplow once.
Like on a car or like a snowcat thing?
No, like a regular snowplow hit them.
Yeah.
Right. I thought it was.
They got fucked up.
I don't know. I thought this dude like got out of his car to help somebody that had like crashed and like he got ran over by like a snowplow. Yeah, that's what I thought happened. That's okay. I mean, it's still terrible.
It's bad. No, it shouldn't happen to people. So we haven't talked about this movie in a bit. What else do we want to say about Arrival?
Yeah.
Oh, so you think that she made the wrong choice?
I think she made the wrong choice. Shouldn't have had the kid.
He tells her that he wouldn't make any different choices.
I'm just saying I wouldn't have made that choice. I mean, I guess it's different when you're living non-linearly because the kids already existed in your mind.
Yeah.
So you're like deleting them, I guess.
I don't know. If you're living non-linearly, like, you see the end of your life. You see like a ton of people that you care about already die in your life. So like, I don't know.
What's
Everybody
one more?
dies.
Yeah.
You know,
Ugh.
everybody's gonna die at some point. So like, might as well be happy for, you know, however many years that she's got that kid.
Yeah.
Even though she knows that this decision means that Jeremy Renner's going to leave her also.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's interesting. It's an interesting choice.
It's really interesting. It's not an easy choice. It's not a super happy ending.
No.
There's a
for
lot
her
to
at
think
all.
about in this movie. A lot of things.
She seems contented, but it doesn't mean it's happy for her.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of so like I said, it's got early on a lot of like Close Encounters homages, but it turns into a much more of a 2001 kind of place as far as like thinky space movies, even though this takes place almost entirely in Montana.
Yes.
As far as like she's beyond now. She has become something more,
Yes.
you know,
Space baby.
much like Dave. She's a space baby now.
Now, you said you didn't know anything about the time stuff coming into this movie.
No, I didn't know about the time stuff. And I
didn't
think
either.
I think that works really well. The thing that I'm talking about is early on, I'm like clocking all these different movies that are also in the same genre that have done similar things or have similar-ish setups. And then it becomes this different thing that's really about, it's not so much about this first contact.
Yes.
That's not really the point of the movie. ultimately.
Yes. It's, I love it. You know what I mean? And then on top of it, the whole thing we're discussing with whether she made the right choice, none of this even relates to aliens at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Like I said, there's just a lot to think about with this
Yeah.
movie.
And it's like the heptapods, they weren't going to stick around. It wasn't a big deal to them either.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
Like they're
funny.
like, oh, we're not going to like establish an embassy here. We'll see you in 3,000 years. None of you are going to be here.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's the other thing too, is like you see all the panic that's caused the whole time. The heptapods do nothing. They show up, they talk to us for a little while, just long enough for us to understand what they're saying. And as soon as we can understand what they're saying, they say, peace, and they leave.
Yes.
And that event alone is almost enough to just fucking like end the world, basically. And I'm like, that's so true. That's like how it would happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's a good take on something that's done often, but not specifically like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it really does.
It's still, it manages to be pretty unique despite being on some well-trod ground, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
crazy. Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
do spend a lot of time, I feel like, every time I watch this movie, because this is like the third or fourth time I've seen this movie. I'll sit there and be like, if aliens showed up, if they did arrive here and did nothing, how much of an issue would that be for us? And I was like, it'd be a big fucking issue. Huge issue.
Yes, if they arrived and were just there and not making demands, not showing themselves outside of their ships, they were just like there.
A couple of ships just landed. I keep thinking, like how
fuck.
long would the ships have to be there before we were like, this is just fine? It'd be like 10 years at least.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not super bothered by that
You're
like
like,
soldier thing.
It's all the way in Montana.
Because I feel like somebody would definitely try to blow it up.
Yeah.
You know, not even government level. I feel like just kind of crazy people would be like,
Yeah.
we need to shoot this thing out.
Especially
of
in
the sky.
Montana. There'd be people trying to shoot that thing all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think part of every country's response was to establish a very wide perimeter around all these things
Yes.
that they were probably patrolling
Constantly.
air, land.
They mentioned that the United States sent like the whole National Guard or something, like 20,000 people.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool movie.
Very cool movie.
I like these kinds of movies. They're good. Aliens are good. We have so many different versions of aliens that whenever one does come, someone's going to be like, that movie had it like almost completely right. What was up with that guy? Anyway,
That'd be awesome.
let's get to ratings every week. Give or take a few months. I'll put our ratings for the episodes up on Letterboxd, on our Late to the Movies Letterboxd. We will give a rating out of 5, but not stars. 0.5 to 5 on any scale of your choosing aside from stars. What would you guys give Denis Villeneuve's 2016 film Arrival?
I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 canaries.
It's pretty good.
I guess it's going to be 4.5 shells out of 5. Even though it's not 5.
I was trying to figure out a fraction to make it like a 4.5 limbed heptapod. What kind of pod would that be?
Quad
0.5 to pod.
quad 0.5 to pod.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a quad 0.5 to pod. That's 4.5 out of, I guess, 7.
You're giving a quad 0.5 to pod out of
It's a perfect 5
1
out of 7.
quintupod.
Out of 1 quintupod, yeah.
Perfect, yes.
I think we got there. I don't know how to spell that, but we'll figure it out. I don't think it's a word, so we can pick whatever we want. Well, thank you guys so much for being on, Ray and Greg.
Thanks.
Yeah, see ya.
See ya. And welcome to the podcast. We did it. Perfect
Woo.
joke.
Yeah.
You can find us on Letterboxd. Sure, I started saying it and couldn't stop myself. Instagram at late2themovies_podcast. Gmail at late2themovies@gmail.com. Maybe a podcast is in there or not. You can check on our website, late2themovies.fireside.fm. And what else can you do? I know what you can do. You can go on TeePublic. Did you like the ladies episode enough to buy a shirt with a crude drawing on it? Not crude in terms of content, just crude in terms of ability of the person who drew it. Me.
Quality.
Yeah. And you can find us audioly on Podbeans, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. Just a general Bing search. There's Google Podcasts. There must be Bing Podcasts also. So find us there. And if you do, tell us. We'll have a call-in show sometime. We won't, actually. Yeah, thanks again, guys. And we already did a closing bit, so bye.
Bye.
Bye.